Hear me? I'm hoping my voice is coming through all right. Hi, Rocky. Rocky's over there. There he is. He's just looking at me. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I hope this works. The tablet has a tendency not to pick up my voice, which kind of is sickening, but there you go. Anyway, I'm going to tell you a story. It's morning time, so good morning, but I'm going to tell you a story that was told to me by a man who's dead now. He passed away a few years back. Lived to be into his 90s, but he passed away a few years back. He was the father of a friend of mine who actually has also passed away now. She died when she was only 56 of ovarian cancer. But I'll tell you this story anyway. Now, this fellow, he come from northern Manitoba. He come from poverty. His family didn't have money or anything, you know. It was a tough kind of a life. And during the Depression of the 1930s, he went to university and studied engineering. The man had several patents under his belt by the time I knew him and stuff. He was quite accomplished as an engineer and whatnot. But he studied engineering during the Depression. He had no money, so he had to work. He had to work jobs and whatnot while he was going to university. And anyway, he had to kind of scrape and scrimp and starve and go to school, basically, and work hard wherever he could get work and to pay for his education. Anyway, Rocky's over there with his water bowl. Anyway, during a break from university, he wanted to go home up to northern Manitoba to where his family was. But of course, he had no money for a ticket to ride the train. So he did what a lot of hobos in those days were doing. He jumped a boxcar that was on a train that was headed in that direction. Anyway, he was on the boxcar, was waiting for the train to start moving. That took a while. But eventually, the train starts moving. And now he had never ridden on a freight train, so he didn't quite know what to expect. Of course, you know those boxcars, they got the sliding doors on each side of them, and the doors of this boxcar were open. And the door, slides down the length of the boxcar and latches. Well, when the train started moving, he heard bang, bang, bang. It was just a regular, bang. And it seemed like the sound was getting closer to his boxcar. And he didn't know what it was. He was curious as to what could possibly be making that sound and why it was getting closer to where he was. I think maybe he was a little bit frightened of it. Decided he wanted to know what was going on. So he stuck his head out the door and he looked and he saw what was happening is as the train had started moving, as the locomotive started moving and pulling the boxcars, that bang he was hearing was the linkages tightening up. Basically, everything was slack, and when the locomotive started pulling that load, as each boxcar started moving, it would pull the one behind it, and it would pull everything tight. So what he was hearing was the linkages between the boxcars tightening up, basically, or being, it was a bang, bang as each linkage between each boxcar tightened up. And that's why it was getting closer to him, because his boxcar hadn't started moving yet. Well, he stuck his head out the window, out the door. He saw what was going on. So then it satisfied his curiosity. He stuck his head back in. And as soon as he stuck his head back in, his boxcar jerked and started moving. And of course, he heard the bang as the linkage tightened up. And the door, the sliding door on the side of the boxcar, this big, heavy sliding door, just whoop, bang, slam shut. Well, if he had still had his head stuck out there, it would have taken his head off. It would have killed him because it slammed shut with an awful lot of force. There's no way he could have survived that if he had his head sticking out when that happened. Oh, hello. Anyway, that's just the story. I guess he kind of saw his life flash before his eyes. Hi, Rocky. Hey. Oh, I see. Good morning. Good morning to you. Oh, there he comes. There he is. I don't know if you can see him, but here he comes. Hi, Rocky. Hey. You going to come and see me? He's going to come and see me. Here we go. Anyway, that's the story. I guess it really made him think because he come a hair's width away from being killed, But I mean, he couldn't afford a ticket. He couldn't pay to ride the train. It was just too expensive. He didn't have the money. And he needed to go home and see his families. And this is what people were doing, too. A lot of people were riding the rails, as they said, riding the boxcars across the country. And so he decided he'd try it. But I guess that was just one of the many risks that people would encounter, when doing that sort of thing. And luckily for him, it worked out all right. He got up north there to see his family. And nothing bad happened to him. It just, he didn't get caught and in trouble, and he didn't get his head slammed in the door and killed or whatever. But yeah, I guess the door just slid across, just a bang, And like I say, if he had been still looking out when that happened, he had just pulled his head in when his boxcar started moving, and he heard the bang as the linkage tightened up, and then the force of it just made the door slide closed, and the doors were whoop, bang, But those doors are pretty heavy. You wouldn't want to have your head in the way when one of those slams shut, Anyway, that's the story. That guy, there's another funny story, actually. I should tell you another funny story. That guy, he lived in a little town called Almont, Ontario, which is, again, it's kind of northeast of here. Just a small town. And he invented this thing, and it used mirrors to focus the sun's energy, the sun's rays, and it would focus the sun's rays on a box, which was an oven, and you could cook with this thing. You didn't have to have any electricity or anything. You could cook with it. And this array of mirrors that he had could be moved. It was on a platform that was on wheels. The whole thing could be transported. It could be pulled behind a car like a trailer. But also it had the ability to turn. The mirrors had an ability to turn in such a way that they'd catch the sun's rays, because the sun moves in the sky. So no matter what time of day it is, you could get the optimum amount of heat out of this thing just by rotating this array of mirrors. Well, he had gone away somewhere, and he had taken a rope, and he had tied the thing. It was like a prototype. It wasn't a finished product yet. So he tied the thing to secure it. He tied it with a rope so that the mirrors wouldn't be catching the sun, basically, and creating heat and so on. Tied it with a rope, and he went off on his trip wherever he was going. Well, we had a wicked rainstorm, and really bad storm with rain and wind and everything. And basically, the rope broke. And now the thing could just move, and it would move with the wind or whatever. Well, somebody came to visit, and they parked their car on the street at the end of the driveway. And they were in the house visiting. And this was in the 90s, so cars had started to have all kinds of plastic body panels. And the back end of this car, the rear bumper and all that, was all plastic. Well, somebody was in the house visiting, and of course this thing was in the driveway. It had been secured with a rope, but the rope had broken, and the thing had spun around and was catching the sun's rays. And it was focusing all that energy down the driveway right to the arse end of this person's car. So they came out of the house, and the whole back end of their car was all melted. And on the pavement, it was all drooping down and stuff because, the thing had melted the back of their car. So that's the story there anyway. But I was there one time, and he took a piece of wood, just took a scrap 2x4, and he put it into a vise, and he directed the sun at it just to demonstrate the thing to me. This was in the midday in the summertime, and it was a sunny day. He directed the sun at it, and within about 30 seconds, you could see smoke, and there was one spot on the piece of wood where it actually was getting dark, and you could see the smoke coming. Within a minute, there was a flame. It was actually on fire, and within about 2 to 3 minutes, it had burnt a hole straight through that piece of 2x4. That's how powerful this thing was, Anyway, one more look at Rocky. Can we see Rocky? Oh, where's Rocky? There he is. He's having a look out the window. He's surveying his territory. Yeah, hey. All right. Anyway, we'll be going outside shortly. And